We have a really packed one for you here today with Hedera connections to TikToc, and we also have updates on Zeni, AI, USDC, Archax. We have several integrations to talk about, and a banging shark bites with Rob Allen. Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, here once again to bring you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So the first thing we're going to jump into is that TikTok news. It got a lot of attention on social media this week. Essentially, Zoop and the HBAR Foundation are putting in a bid for the TikTok platform. And yes, we're talking about acquiring the US portion of the social media giant TikTok. For some background, the US Congress passed a law requiring TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to divest from the American portion of the company, citing national security concerns. And for some more information on Zoop, it's an HBAR Foundation grantee that we've had on in the past and was founded by OnlyFans creator Tim Stokely. The US portion of TikTok is worth well over $100 billion, and the winning bid will likely be over $50 billion, so the capital for the actual purchase must be coming from outside investors since Zoop and the HBAR Foundation don't have those kind of resources on their own. And this would make you think to make a serious bid, those funds probably should already be secured. Zoop and the HBAR Foundation are far from alone, though. There are many entities trying to acquire TikTok, including Amazon, Microsoft, BlackRock, and even Mr. Beast. That said, they wouldn't be doing this unless they thought they had at least a slim shot. The exciting part for us is there's so many ways that a platform like TikTok could leverage Hedera, and micropayments for tips, exclusive content, or token gating is just the tip of the iceberg. Co-founder RJ Phillips said, "Our bid for TikTok isn't just about changing ownership, it's about creating a new paradigm where both creators and their communities benefit directly from the value they generate." So based on that quote, it seems pretty clear that Zoop is well aligned with a theme we've been talking about a lot in Hedera lately, and that's empowering creators. I love to see this, and I have a few more questions, but I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to try to get RJ on next week to answer what we've got left. We also have the beta version of HashSpheres that launched this week by Hashgraph, and Rob is going to dive more into that in Shark Bites, but it caught the attention of Anthony Scaramucci, who said, "It's impressive to hear what Hedera has been building. The heads down builders will win the next era of crypto." We also saw HBAR getting tons of social media attention around RWAs, as highlighted here by LunaCrush. This kind of earned media attention can make some serious waves, and what we're seeing out of Mingo and Infinite Reality, Zoop, and TikTok certainly can't hurt. Changing gears here a little bit, I also saw some Hedera integrations that caught my eye this week. First, Telegram is integrating HBAR into their wallet. At first, it won't be available in the US, but this is a big step for everyone else. We already see one of our gaming team's Earthlings and decentralized promotion platform, The Mouth, integrating applications with Telegram, so this added support can definitely come in handy for so many of our builders out there. We also saw Fireblocks supporting Hedera EVM-based RWAs and tokens with institutional custody. Now, this doesn't include HTS tokens yet, but the hope is that this is coming, and as soon as it does, it'll have a huge impact on HTS token exchange listings. So really, for me, that can't come soon enough, but this is a great first step. So now we're going to move from infrastructure to AI. Last week we talked about Convai, but I didn't have my head fully wrapped around what's going on that platform. So we got Jay Cool to come out and explain all of it to us, including giving us some more information around the AI hackathon that's coming up. Jay, welcome back. I think it's probably clear now that if there's something at the intersection of Hedera and AI that I don't understand, you're probably going to be getting a DM.
Yeah, man, I was going to say, I've been on here, I think this is the third time, and all AI related, but every time I'm always honored to be invited, and definitely there's going to be a yes coming my way if you ask me again.
All right, well, let's dive into it. First, I want to get into Convai. This is something that was announced just last week. I covered it a little bit, but tell us what all the excitement's about.
Yeah, so Convai, it's a really interesting standard which has been produced by one of the really key community contributors called Hashgraph Online. Now, just to give a bit of context about Hashgraph Online, they are a DAO in the Hedera ecosystem made up of a consortium of the top projects. So people like NFT, who's obviously founder, is Michael Cantor. He's the president at the Hashgraph Online DAO, but also Hashpack, Kabila, and many others as well, Sentex. They're all part of this DAO, and they are pioneering the Hedera consensus service, essentially, to really maximize what we can do with our native Hedera consensus service, the publish, message, and sort of the messaging service that we have on Hedera. One of the recent standards which they created is a standard called HCS 10, which is essentially, it gives the ability for AI agents, in particular autonomous AI agents, to actually communicate with each other. And to the extent of it allows AI agents to actually search which AI agents are available to be communicated with, and then send them messages, create their own topic, their own Hedera consensus topic, to send messages securely back and forth, essentially enabling a communication protocol for AI agents to communicate with each other in a totally decentralized way using the native Hedera token service. Hedera consensus service.
The consensus service. All right. So, I mean, one of the things I saw that there was monetization involved. How can developers and users leverage this new technology to enhance their products?
Yeah, so it's really interesting you brought that up. And actually, that's where the Hedera token service comes in. So one of the new HIPs, which was recently just added to the Hedera mainnet, is a HIP called HIP 991. And I'll give a bit of a background as to what a HIP is. So a HIP is a Hedera improvement proposal. Obviously, Hedera is source code which is being continually improved. When Lehman first came out with it years and years ago, it wasn't, okay, this is perfect, let's move on and just focus on making it business ready. No, we're constantly improving, and obviously the code has actually been handed over to Hyro. So separate point, if you want to sort of get involved in these continuous improvements of Hedera, head over to Hyro and you can actually get involved there. But one of these new improvements which was made to the core infrastructure was HIP 991. Now, this was also pioneered by Michael Cantor, president at the Hashgraph Online DAO, as well as one of the guys internally at Hashgraph, Patches, or Ty, but Patches as he's more commonly known. And what this HIP enables is really interesting, and it's particularly relevant with Convey and HCS 10. Essentially, it allows a Hedera consensus topic to have a fee schedule on it. Now, what does that mean? So we already have the ability to create custom fees on normal non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens, meaning I can create a fungible token or non-fungible token in which whenever I transfer it, say it's an NFT, I can create a royalty fee attached to that token. So if I transfer it for 100 HBAR, I might have a royalty fee which says, okay, 10% of that goes to X account. A similar concept has been added onto consensus topics, where traditionally a consensus topic, to submit a message onto that topic, it costs 1/100 of a cent, something to that sort of, I think that's right, you're nodding your head, I think that is correct. Basically it's really cheap. But now with HIP 991, what we can do is we can go, okay, you pay this normal message submit fee, but actually we can have another fee, a custom fee on top of that consensus topic, meaning in order to submit a message, you need to pay the base 100th of a cent fee, as well as potentially a 5 USDC fee. So they can be priced in HBAR, or it can be priced in any token that you want. And what this enables is it allows the ability for proof of payment of a particular message. So you can have an AI agent, let's say an AI agent which is communicating to another AI agent using HCS 10 or OpenConvey, and it can communicate to that other message, it can communicate to the other agent, submit a message, and when that agent receives the first agent's message, the outbound message, it knows, okay, this AI agent, or technically this human as well, has paid 10 USDC. So that message can only be received if that money, if that HTS token has been received, or HBAR token been received, which essentially allows this element of trust. Okay, this message has been paid for, now I can execute it, now I can call this particular agentic tool and then send a response back to it. And why that's really interesting is because, again, using the native layer 1 Hedera token service and the native Hedera layer 1 Hedera consensus service, we are enabling this marketplace of inter-agent communication. There's no fancy centralized logic built on top where we have to sort of abstract it away from the core layer 1. All of this is native, and I think that's where it's really powerful, because we'll see true decentralization as well as the lowest fees possible.
It's really incredible with this, what we're seeing with Prove AI, of course, Equity Lab embedding Hedera technology directly in NVIDIA and Intel chips. I'm not surprised that we have all of this focus on the AI space and the intersection of Hedera. Now, we also have something going on right now or coming up very shortly in the hackathon that is going to be focused purely on AI. Now, we had a hackathon last year that also had a big focus on AI. AI, but not exclusively. Can you tell us a little bit about this hackathon?
Yeah, so I think what I'll do first is I'll go a bit into the why, as to why I'm doing this hackathon. And it's purely just because this AI space is moving so fast. I mean, you mentioned we had our Hello Future 2 hackathon, which was earlier in, I think, sort of September, October it was running, around that time of the year. But AI agents had not had nearly the amount of impact that they've had now. And because this AI space is moving so fast, we really need to sort of get involved in it now. And obviously, we've been building our support on the AI agent side. We've been building support for the ELIZA plugin. So that's something which developers can use now. There's a Hedera ELIZA plugin, which you can use into your ELIZA agents. We've got support for LangChain and LangGraph agents, the Hedera agent kit. There's a lot of stuff there. And we were like, okay, we've been building all of this infrastructure. Now it's time to put it in the hands of developers, put it in the hands of builders to actually use it to build the next generation applications. Another example of these tools which we've been working on is, of course, HCS 10, the Open Convey standard, which I was sort of explaining earlier. But basically, we're at a pretty mature place in time where we've got the tooling, we've got the resources. Now it's up to the devs, now it's up to the community to make use of these to the max. And really start, obviously, just putting it into practice, getting these dApps which use the latest AI technologies and getting their fair reimbursement for it, for the quality that's produced.
Yeah, there's some significant prizes for this, $30,000 in prizes. What would you suggest to teams and developers that are looking to participate? What would you suggest to them to have the best chance of success?
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the use cases that we talk about internally a lot is lowering that barrier to entry, or lowering that friction, particularly when it comes to dealing with or interacting with complex DeFi protocols. Now, a lot of us are in sort of this Web3 bubble where, okay, we've been using decentralized exchanges for the last 3 years and we don't have any problem with it at all. Or we don't have any problem with concepts like staking and concepts like providing liquidity. But actually, these are pretty challenging concepts to sort of get to know when you first get into it. So if we can have AI agents which connect to a person's wallet, and again, we have the tech for this. If we have AI agents where you can basically using a chat interface, which is probably the most popular interface at the moment and definitely will be over the next few years, to basically go, okay, I've got X amount of HBAR in my account, I've got a high risk profile, what can I do with this? And then it might come back and say, okay, with this, you can go over to this DEX and you can swap for this token, you can provide liquidity to that pool, or you can go over to Bonzo and you can borrow some stuff and whatever. And it creates this sort of strategy for you and then executes it once you've said, yeah, I'm happy with that. That would be a pretty interesting use case. It's been done in other ecosystems, not really well, but it has been done, and that would be something which is awesome. I think on the other side of things, also contributing to the existing tools that we have, or building net new tools. Again, the AI space is so fast. I mean, we're doing our best to sort of keep up to pace, but of course, there's going to be new features, new things which didn't exist 2 weeks ago that we cannot create like that. We're focusing on the core stuff. If, for example, you've got a really amazing idea as to there's a new trend in AI which Hedera could jump on, and you build that sort of developer tooling for it, that would also be definitely highly rewarded.
All right, well, that's great advice. And of course, if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to the DevRel team over there at Hashgraph, and I'm sure you'll be able to get them on the right track. And like you said, this space is moving so fast, so don't be surprised if you get another DM from me pretty soon.
Appreciate it, man. Really, thanks again for having me, Brandon. And again, doors always open.
So obviously, AI has the potential to really impact the Hedera network, and AI can do amazing things, but it can't address the internet of value, and that's where crypto comes in. And Hedera is so well placed to provide that value transfer mechanism for all of the AI applications we're seeing pop up around there and all of the ones that are going to be coming in the future. So it's great to see that Hedera is leaning into that narrative and providing everything Hedera has to offer. And speaking of crypto AI builders, Hedera is continuing to see an explosion of development activity as reported here by Chainbroker. Now, the only network growing faster is Arbitrum, and they're coming from a much lower base. Hedera is still higher in terms of total development activity on the network. So I appreciate all the Hedera builders out there, and I can't wait to see what you come up with all these AI tools that are being provided as well. Now we're going to move over to something we've covered a lot in the past few weeks, and that's USDC. Over the past week, we've seen another increase in the amount of USDC minted on Hedera. We saw it get to as high as I think 83 or 84 million. Right now it's sitting at 81 million, which is a significant increase compared to what we were seeing last week. We also saw an additional on-ramp for Hedera stablecoins and USDC in Alchemy. Their post said HBAR and Hedera native USDC are now supported by the Alchemy Pay on-ramp, accelerating access to Hedera's RWAs, AI, and DeFi ecosystems. Buy crypto like a pro with your favorite fiat payment methods, fast, easy, and borderless. And they go on to say that it's available now. One of the many businesses that I see taking advantage of the developments we're seeing in Hedera stablecoins, specifically around USDC, is Zeni. And I caught up with the CEO of Zeni, Sachin, to give us some exciting updates. So let's take a look. Sachin, welcome back. I like the HederaCon swag.
Thank you very much. What an event, Brandon. Amazing. I was there in Colorado, got to meet the leadership team. Everyone was so pumped up about the ecosystem. And people flew from all over the world. Wow. What an experience.
And for good reason. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, and Zeni is certainly one of the things that I'm really impressed with. Sachin, I'd like to get a good baseline for my Built on Hedera series. Can you explain the Zeni platform?
Absolutely. We have built an infrastructure layer for a modern travel commerce. So Zeni is basically, think of like a Web 2 booking engine, but completely built on a blockchain network. And it will start giving a complete new prospect to whether it's tokenization, whether it's a payment settlement, all the utilities which are underutilized for the ecosystem of travel users or travel bookers, travelers, that all will be very, very seamless, and all the participant constituents will be able to connect to our platform, and we will build a extremely modern experience for them in terms of whether they're booking a hotel or flights, or whether they are selling the hotels or flights. And if there are service providers like hotel owners, airlines, they'll be able to get to their customer faster, money will move faster, it will be far more convenient. The demand supply mismatch will not be there. We're hoping to bring this modern infrastructure, which is built on Hedera, to the world,
So Sachin, you mentioned that you're built on Hedera. How exactly is Zeni using Hedera?
So step back. The most important challenge why even we need a blockchain infrastructure. Let's get there. Why do you need a decentralized system, right? So travel is completely distributed between multiple parties. There isn't, think of like hotel owners or many airlines. There are 900 airlines, 2 million hotels worldwide, 2 million plus. And they're in different geographies, different locations. So now they are doing a commerce on a layer of a Web 2 internet. What is happening, users sitting somewhere else, trying to make a booking, hotel in London in a different currency, and there are like 5 million. There are multiple counterparties on things like this. Why do you need any blockchain or any decentralized network? Is there 3 reasons. The aggregation of travel inventory and a distribution of travel inventory is completely controlled by multiple players, and that is sitting in the centralized system, and they're talking to each other. And there is never a single source of truth, whether it's a booking ID, whether it's a hotel confirmation number, or the payment settled. The third point I was about to get to is the payments. The money moves in different currencies and different parts of the world. It's a cross-border transaction. So all these 3 complicates the handshake between the multiple counterparties. It complicates the account reconciliation. It also complicates the distribution. It is broken at multiple levels. So if you have a unique distribution where all of these are sitting on a blockchain network, they have a single source of truth. They're talking about the same. You can involve the counterparties in terms of transaction, in terms of payment settlement, in terms of booking a hotel. Today, this centralized system costing a lot of money. It's costing a lot of time. It's slowing down the money movement between the counterparties. It's extremely inconvenient for the users to be able to get their canceled money back to their credit card because there are multiple parties involved. For example, airlines are still not able to pay the people back. They have to give you the credit. Many times you go with the credit. That's where I see the huge use case of a blockchain network. And why Hedera? Let's get to that. My number one reason is to do any commerce or business, you need to know what it is going to cost you. Okay. it cannot be fluctuating prices or anything, right? The Hedera blockchain's number one utility for travel industry was all of the gas fees were pegged to dollars, right? I now have a definitive price about how my transactions will be moved, and I'll be able to build the business model on top of that. Number two, TPS. The settlement time in travel industry is extremely important. You cannot send the transaction and wait for network to respond or confirm for longer time, because now you have a risk of losing that booking. For example, in case of airline, you usually get a window of like few minutes max or few seconds, but not in all the cases. If your confirmation of transaction is not instant or near instant, it's extremely critical for us to be able to hold that booking and confirm it with the users. That was number two. Number three was, I think it's more on the ecosystem side. To be able to bring the travel ecosystem on a Web3 world, I wanted a complete abstraction layer where they don't have to know what a blockchain is, what it is. So we built a very simple UI interface with the help of Hedera. Hedera's entire ecosystem is underlying the Zeni, but we built an interface where they can simply do all the functions. They don't have to send us invoice. They can see everything on their dashboard. All of the transactions are encrypted. That's the complexity we have solved with HBAR.
So Sachin, I am curious about one thing. I know that you have XBucks, that's a stablecoin that Zeni uses. Of course, the functionality of some of our stablecoins wasn't exactly where we needed it to be, so you needed to have that stablecoin option on your platform. But now we are getting additional functionality. We're getting on and off ramps for USDC. Are you thinking about adding some support for USDC on your platform?
Well, absolutely. Let's get to it, right? And I can show you currently we are using Xbox to be able to track all the transactions and settle them on the platform. So what is happening, all the commissions and the COGS payment tracking is done via Xbox. Xbox is basically mirroring the function of a fiat or a stable coin. If we receive $100,000 worth of transaction and it goes to 4 parties, Xbox is basically going in, we're sending the tokens into their wallet and they can redeem it if the booking is non-refundable, and user can cancel the booking, and if it is refundable, and get them fiat back in their bank or credit card, or they will have an option to basically take the money in USDC and stablecoin and then spend it again. So there are 3 use cases where expanding the use case of stablecoins within our ecosystem. Currently, we have more than 500,000 users, and we're going to add another 1 million users. So every user gets a wallet in the ecosystem. Okay. And the biggest use case here is stable coins can be used in exchange of the reward points. So we are going to launch a rewards and loyalty token. And that rewards and loyalty tokens, for example, you have American Express or Chase points, you can convert that into cash. You will be able to convert that into HUSDC. You will be able to take that points and spend somewhere else, but we'll be building a comprehensive rewards platform within our ecosystem for the users to be able to port, import, or spend in the ecosystem.
Sachin, that's exactly what I was expecting to hear. I knew that XBucks, you had an on and off ramp back and forth into fiat, but I had a feeling that you would start to leverage USDC more now that we have those on and off ramps as well. So you were talking about that UI UX a few minutes ago. I am curious, can you show us the platform?
Absolutely. I'm going to show you 2 things. Version 1, which is live and ready and running. It's a beta version called ZeniPay, where we track the ecosystem bookings across the hundreds of thousands of travelers, across the hundreds of suppliers, and then within the Zeni's users. Okay, which is, I would say, B2B OTA, white label OTA players. So we track across the party. What's happening here is you can see we have done around 30 million plus transactions on the network. This is real money, $6.2 million been moved. This is, again, I'm saying it's a beta version. The bigger version will start coming soon. We're working on version 2. It will come in next 2 to 3 quarters. What happened here is this $6.2 million is representing the Xbox. Okay. So Xbox, we have created a total token supply of 10 million. This is a circulating supply, and we have treasury balance and this many wallets, and you can see, look at it. So these are the wallets involved in the transactions, and this is the total Xbox. So 6.2 million Xbox are here. You can see it's correlating to the ecosystem bookings. So X bucks are clearly attached to every single transaction in the ecosystem. Okay, and it can be easily ported or moved in any direction we would want. But that represents the fiat dollars collected, entered into the system, and settled within the system or exiting out of the system, based on the booking conditions, based on the cancellation policy, based on who needs to get paid what. So our smart contract decides between how the transaction split happens.
And Sachin, what's it look like to actually book some travel on Zeni?
Absolutely. As you can see on your screen, think of like you're looking for a hotel. You chose the hotel you would want to go to. You picked up your dates. You're going to Marriott in New York on November 2nd through 3rd. That's your choice of hotel. This is a checkout page. It's not different than any of your large online travel agency, whether it's other big competitors, which I wouldn't name, but I'm sure you're using in your daily lives. So it's not different. You're just making a reservation based on your travel preferences. And I'm just choosing a hotel as an example here. You can pay with the points, you can pay with credit cards, you can pay with crypto, you can pay with debit or credit card. In this case, we just gotta say, let's use a credit card. That's a very common use case. We have made the reservation. For the user, the reservation is successfully completed. Now, what's different is because this entire infrastructure is built on a modern layer of a blockchain technology or on Hashgraph, we have an ability to be able to allow this booking to be transferable from Brandon to John or Brandon to Sach. We have also added another function. We say, Brandon, this booking is transferable booking, but we need to create your own ownership link, and we need to have your contract around that. So what we have allowed, and in this case, we're using a bunch of wallets. Since we are Hedera ecosystem users, I'm going to use a hashback as an example that this is the wallet you'll be connecting, and you can use any wallet to connect. So you connect your wallet here. I'm just going to go through that. Your wallet is connected successfully. Now we will allow, Brandon, for you to be able to create a unique contract and ownership link for your booking. So you own this booking, you have it in your wallet. You like, this is great, awesome. I'm going on November 2nd through 3rd. This is my cost. I'm going back. This is great. But now, Brandon, your plan has changed. You don't want to go any longer. You don't want to cancel this booking. You want to see what you can do with it. You can take this booking and list it on any marketplace. And the time you made this reservation was $440. And now the price in the retail price of that same booking has gone up because you sat on it for a couple of months. There is more demand came up. You can list your price. You can see your current retail price, and you can just simply list your booking.
So is this in the form of an NFT now? Could this go on other Web3 marketplaces, other Hedera marketplaces?
Correct. Yes, it could be portable. Just we are attaching your booking to your wallet, and it's tokenized version. We are changing the name from NFT to Real World Travel Tokenization, RWTT, because people confuse a lot between, they think they're just getting a picture. So we don't want that to happen. People need to know that this is really tokenized booking, transferable booking, which you can go and list. And now Sach and John could come and like, hey, I would like to stay at this hotel. It's $100 cheaper than the market price. I would love to buy it. I'll just connect my wallet, and we will be able to transfer your booking from Brandon to John, and John will now be able to stay at that hotel.
So this is one thing, Sachin, that I can picture happening in the future. We started off this talking about HederaCon. What, the Hashgraph crew could do is book a bunch of hotels, a bunch of rooms, all through Zeni. And then as that gets closer, because of course it's alongside ETH Denver, they already have all this kind of stuff booked, ready to go, close to the location where HederaCon is going to be. And then it makes it that much easier for all the Hedera people to go ahead and participate in that event.
Absolutely. That's the goal. It will be one single ecosystem. They'll be able to use their stable coins. They can use any crypto they would want to book their hotels with. And they have an ability to be able to transfer this booking if they are not going to make it, and not lose on all of that cash, hard-earned cash they have spent to be there. So what Zeni is doing, we're building the use cases like this, whether it's a reward system. That's our number one priority in this year, that we should be able to offer the reward system for all of our ecosystem user and expand that beyond our ecosystem for everyone to participate. And the Zeni Pay would be number two priority. And you have seen this is already in the prototype version. It's just we are debating when to launch it, when to make it available to public.
All right. Well, I certainly want to know when that's going to launch. But first, you mentioned that you have about 500,000 users right now, but that's going to be expanding significantly going here into the future. How does everything look on the partnership and customer front?
Yeah. So I'm sure many of you know all of the large booking sites in the world, but there are really, really small, medium enterprises and large super apps in the world who would want to resell travel. Reselling travel is basically harnessing your existing audience, give them a reward system, give them a unique way to buy travel cheaper than just going on any OTA or directly on a hotel website. So all these big super apps in the world are trying to find the products to sell more and more. And travel reselling is a very lucrative part. So we have partnered with some bunch of players in Latin America, in Middle East, in North America, to be able to allow them to resell travel. So what happens, there's millions of users who are already using Zeni-powered infrastructure gets wallets assigned to them. So the many million users are coming on our ecosystem. And knowingly or without knowingly, they're interacting with the HashGraph. And if somebody is an active DGen or understand how to use wallets and everything, they would bring their own wallet and connect with our ecosystem and be able to start using it for their travel or whether they do their e-commerce, however they want it. So Zeni is powering a bunch of potential players worldwide. We will be bringing millions of users to the ecosystem, and we will be giving them a unique product types, which they never had a chance before to be able to book it. And also save a lot of money because Zeni has access to all the wholesale inventory worldwide. And that's the best thing.
So, Sachin, you mentioned, you're debating whether to launch this next phase of Zeni. When do you think that might happen? And is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Definitely before next HederaCon. So I would say the engineering timelines are very, very optimistic always, but then they take time because you figure out there is so much needed for the users to be able to actually use things. I'm looking at Q1 of 2026 or maybe Q4 of this to be able to launch a reward system and have ability for people to be able to use their HUSDC or convert the rewards into HUSDC and be able to get more people on board. Our current focus is to be able to power those millions of users which are coming through different partnerships. First is number one, give them a very stable, scalable booking system. And it's already helping blockchain network because all of the transactions are basically settled or tracked on the HashGraph. I'm looking forward to be able to give you a definitive answer end of Q2, what's coming next. But I'm looking at a reward system will be the first one to be able to come. Version 2 of Zeni Pay APIs, the APIs as well as the Zeni Pay will be coming to the market soon. More.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, it sounds like we're going to get you back here at the end of Q2 for another update. Sachin, we appreciate you coming on here today, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Now, another business I want to report on is Archax. We know they've done amazing things over in the UK with tokenizing funds on Hedera from BlackRock, from Aberdeen, from Fidelity, but they're making a move now over to the United States. They say the Archax vision has always been to offer our RWA products and services globally, and with our latest acquisition of a regulated broker-dealer ATS in the United States, this is becoming a reality. This transaction will enable Archax to extend its distribution and reach of core real-world asset products and services into the U.S. region, which is an enormous and important global market, and which now has a much clearer and more open regulated landscape. So regardless of some of the other macro impacts that are kind of making a bumpy road for the crypto space right now, once we come out on the other side of it, these are the kind of tailwinds that we're going to be seeing coming out of the United States. And I think it's going to have a massive impact. Now we're going to move from the United States down under. We're going to go talk to Sharky Rob around some of the things that you guys were wondering about in the Hedera ecosystem. Rob, welcome back. It's always exciting here in Hedera land. How's your week been?
It's been a great week. Great to be back, Brandon. Let's get into the questions.
All right, we'll jump right into it. So the first one comes from Matt.hbar, who asks, any progress for Hedera or the foundations/associations in Europe? Sad to see Hedera is not part of the Digital Euro Association conference this week, despite the HBAR Foundation partnering with them last year.
I don't know about the Digital Euro event, but the Foundation and the Hashgraph Association have a huge presence in Europe. There's an awful lot going on. Hashgraph Association obviously is based out of Switzerland. We have presence across most of the countries in Europe. So we have advocacy and developers and developer advocates working, got Greg Scallard and Tim McHale and Hanya Othman and Giuseppe Bertoni. And so Europe is very, very, very much covered. We've got governing council members that are based out of Europe, like EDF. And of course, there's that's ignoring the, post-Brexit UK as well, also having a huge presence, both from our ecosystem partners resourcing and the things they're doing. Community-wise, very, very strong in UK and Europe. So I don't think it's being ignored at all. There are lots of events happening, big conferences in Switzerland and Europe that we're participating in. I think next one's Paris Blockchain Week. I'm going to Zurich to Point Zero, which is at the beginning of May. So, yeah, I don't recognize the question's suggestion that Europe's being ignored at all just because we're not at the Digital Euro event. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on that.
All right, that works. So next up, I have a couple of them around AP+. So the first one comes from Celestial Being asking, does Australian Payments Plus have a use case similar to or greater than Atma.io? Next up, Lewis says, tell us more about this AP Plus use case. He quotes, the platform HashSphere integrates Hedera's existing tools, is compatible with Ethereum Virtual Machine, and is currently working with early partners, including Australian Payments Plus, Australia's national payments scheme operator. Now, up until this point, Rob, you've been pretty tight-lipped around what you're doing exactly with Australian Payments Plus, but can you give us any insights?
Sadly, no. I'm sorry. No, the announcements will be made in due course, and fingers crossed it's not too long away. But we're a member-based organization, and there's a lot of hurdles to jump to actually make public announcements on anything we do. So that's the reason. There is a lot of background activity, but it'll be publicly announced in due course. The HashSphere thing, we're Hedera Governing Council member. We host a node. We're exploring all sorts of uses of Hedera for many different use cases. HashSphere, now it is a product. Now the beta launch has been launched this week, is part of that mix, right? And as I talk about a lot, we have a mainnet. So we've got a public mainnet. We have Hyro, which is all open source. And now we have the ability to actually use a private instance of Hedera in HashSphere. So we've been talking to the Hashgraph team almost since the beginning to see how that might fit. Because like all enterprise, there are use cases which require privacy, which don't necessarily need a public ledger. And in some cases, having a public ledger is, a barrier or an inhibitor to actually using or deploying that use case. So it's very interesting to have this mix of different capabilities while all built on the same technology base and the same code base. We've had both us and our stakeholders and members regularly have the discussions around what should be private and what should not be, and not just there within the whole industry. I'm very plugged into the Web3 industry in Australia, and we there's an ongoing conversation about what should be held private, what needs to be on a public ledger, and what's in between. So it's right that we're engaged in that conversation, and having HashSphere now ready to run discovery exercises on to actually truly demonstrate, and it's often not until you are able to test, prove, and demonstrate these use cases that the stakeholders, the business decision makers actually understand or get it, or ask the informed questions about how these things align with business strategy. Because until you get that alignment, you've got no chance of getting anything into production meaningfully. So you've got to engage the business sponsors, the business decision makers, the risk teams, in a way where they can understand that what they're signing off on is, not going to end careers or cause big problems. HashSphere allows that for us and for other enterprises that are engaged in the beta program with Hashgraph, because. And I hope we can get the Hashgraph team on to be the authoritative, answerer of these questions, because I know the community are very, very interested in those answers. But from my perspective, and as someone who has, looked at HashSphere as a way of solving some of the problems that we need to solve around privacy of data and personal information and transactional privacy and that sort of thing. All enterprises have those kind of concerns about public ledgers to a greater or less degree, and sometimes those concerns prevent them moving forward with DLT use cases. There's grand vision, the use cases actually resonate, but then they hit these risk teams, or they hit the compliance barriers or whatever. What HashSphere does, from my perspective, is it allows you to proceed with the use cases in a way that doesn't potentially have consequences to the privacy of data. And it takes you along that journey and a further step. We talk about Web 2.5. That's kind of where you're going. You're trying to get enterprises out of the comfort zone that they've been in for 10, 15, 20 years in the Web 2 space, and to try and move forward into the future, the Web 2.5 step as the first step. HashSphere allows for that, because what you end up then doing is building the expertise, building the tooling, building the experience of using the Hedera technology in a private instance. And then when it becomes possible, when it becomes viable, and when there is a business need to do it, there's a natural extension out of that private space onto the mainnet. Now, there are lots of architectures, and the paper that was released this week with the launch shows 3 different models. It shows the HashSphere, the private bubble, if you like, within which you can work. There's the bubble to bubble kind of interoperability, which is quite interesting in its own right. How does you do the intersphere interoperability? And then there's the fully hybrid private to public mainnet model as well. All of those are very interesting because they have different use cases, and I see them as entirely additive. You're not taking away a use case from the mainnet in order to do it privately, because in the fullness of time, if the product market fit is there for it to be on mainnet, then that's where it will be. If there's a business and commercial need to keep it all private, then you'll stay in the sphere. But you will have teams that are familiar with the ways of working with Hedera in either way, and then they'll cross proliferate. This is what we need. We need that bridge between Web 2 and a fully decentralized Web 3 future, and HashSphere offers that. From my perspective, I see lots of reasons to have a HashSphere, and what I need is interoperability. Because we live in a world where we have stable coins and deposit tokens and tokenized money market funds and other forms of digital money that are going to be public. They have to be public. So we need to be able to interoperate between mainnet and private instance. And those are the things that are being worked on right now. So we have bridges. We've got the development of the bridge architectures with Layer 0 and Axelar, and that might be suitable in the near term, and then longer term, all of the things that are on the roadmap around interledger communications that Lehman has been talking about, which requires hash proofs, state proofs rather, and all of the other elements that lead into state proofs, like block streams and block nodes and everything else. All of that needs to be in place. So in the first instance, we'll probably use bridging infrastructure, but ultimately it'll be fully interoperable via the interledger communications. So it's a super exciting space, and in terms, and the final point, and I know the community is very, very interested in this part. How does it use? What does it do to the mainnet? How does it use HBAR, and what does it do in terms of TPS and transactions? And I think the jury's out on that. I mean, we're still in beta. I think for sure, Model 1, the private sphere, doesn't need to anchor into the mainnet. So that's like a private solution now. It's like a private blockchain or a distributed database or just a database, right? So that's that solution. I am assuming that within that sphere, the applications that are being built can still interact with HCS. So there's lots and lots of reasons to use HCS for, as we know, for any application. And therefore, that this doesn't preclude the use of mainnet HCS for logging and everything else if you need the trust layer, right? And it's not within the sphere. When you get to intersphere interoperability, I suspect the conduit between the two will be mainnet based. I'm not sure of that, but I think that will be the case. And then ultimately, obviously, the hybrid will just be a multiplier effect on the flows into and out of the sphere using the public ledger. So that, of course, will use both HTS and HCS and potentially even smart contract service as well. So those will then be kind of super apps, networks in their own right, which then use the mainnet for all the trust and the value flow and everything else that you get with that.
My expectation is a lot of these might start as spheres, but they're going to realize really quickly that it only really makes sense to do this on mainnet or just do it as a private database. And then eventually all of them are going to be using it for interoperability as well. So I think everything eventually is going to go towards using Hedera. But this is a good stepping stone for a lot of those companies.
It really is. And I love the mental image of all these bubbles floating around these spheres and bumping into each other or having bridges between them or anchoring into the mainnet. I think that mental model is actually super cool as well, and the fact that it's all built on the same tech means that the whole will be greater than the sum of the parts, and they won't exist and they can't exist in complete isolation, because history has shown that walled gardens just wither and die. So you can only scale once you've built those bridges and the interoperability is in place, and you will need that for things like value flow and everything else where you have to interact outside of the bubble. So I think it's entirely additive. It's pretty novel as well. I mean, there are other, as we know, kind of private instances of other chains, but the way that the Hashgraph team have gone about it, and the fact that we have Hiero backing this all up, and we have the mainnet, and a very unique governance model, I think a perfect combination of uses of the Hashgraph.
All right. So the last one we have for you, Rob, it's not your favorite use case with payments and micropayments and all that kind of fun stuff, but it is around refi. And this one might get a little bit spicy. So this one comes from Mike Lowry, who asks, are Demia and Dovu complementary to one another, or are they on a collision course?
They can't be on a collision course. From my perspective, and from this point in the evolution of the Guardian ecosystem, they are absolutely complementary because they grow the pie. The genius as I see it, of what Wes Geisenberger and the foundation have done in terms of investing in not just the Guardian solution, but the entire ecosystem around it. SolidWorks DAO and Totem Earth and Evercity, and the big announcements like Olcott, a big project developer, bringing all of that. All of those carbon credit metric tonnage to the Guardian platform, and all the other open source policies that lower the bar to entry for project developers and project proponents and everyone else, as well as the buy side of the marketplace as well. So all of this is a heavy lift, right? You're growing an ecosystem and you're having to lift each piece, not too far, but not too slowly. And the fact that we're now at a place where it's attracting the likes of Demia. I mean, Demia's been around in the sustainability space, building solutions for years. And now they're working with DLT Earth and the foundation with Guardian Solutions. I mean, that's testament to actually attracting those who have tried the rest and now know where the best is and have come to the Hedera Guardian. Dovu have been torchbearers and advocates and core contributors almost since day one. Matt Smith is the biggest flag bearer for all of this, and then they found their own way with Dovu OS and everything that they're doing with their token and the community that they've built. So I think they're both great examples of how the ecosystem is growing. There may be some overlap, and competitive tension is always good. I don't know whether there is or not, but I mean, there has to be. There are a whole bunch of registries growing now in the Guardian ecosystem, and the registries, some will be entirely different regions and have very particular markets, and some will compete for the projects to register an issue on their platforms. But that's healthy too. I mean, we're still so far away from the net zero targets and so far away from truly eliminating greenwashing and getting to a place where every nature-based asset is independently verifiable on the ledger, that it's an absolute pleasure to see all of these participants coming into the ecosystem. So ReFi is really a differentiator for Hedera. It always has been, and it always will be, in my view, because of the investment that has been put into growing an entire ecosystem. And like in any ecosystem, elements of it will be really successful, some will misfire, some will come and go, but the ecosystem as a whole will be healthy and vibrant and grow together, because we need this big step change in order to really make an impact on the restoration and health of the planet. So I welcome Demia into the fold, and I'm really looking forward to finding out more.
Agreed. Well, Rob, that's all we have for you this week. We appreciate you taking these questions week in and week out. We also appreciate everybody giving us their questions.
Absolutely.
If you have any more for Rob on the Hedera ecosystem or the HBAR economy, you can drop those down in the comments. That's all we have, Rob. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brandon. See you next week.
And a couple more pieces of news before we move over to network analysis. First, Chainlink, which we mentioned last week, is supporting Hedera in a much more active way, did an interview or a space with Genfinity where they did a pretty deep dive. So I urge everybody to go check out that space done by Ryan on Genfinity. We also have DeFi Llama, who's going to be tracking Hedera revenue. And while it's not earth-shattering right now, I think this is going to come in really handy in the years to come as the network and use cases continue to scale. And with that, let's take a look at what's happening on the network. The throughput on the network dipped a little on average, but when I checked in on Hashpoint Research, we were seeing a spike at over 40 TPS. We're still holding at just about 2.5 seconds to network consensus finality, which essentially is how long it takes for a transaction to settle. We saw over 65,000 accounts created this week, 382,000 NFT transfers, 44,000 fungible token transfers, and over 600,000 high-value smart contract calls. Taking a look at the HBAR and crypto markets, what was being touted as another Black Monday started off ugly, but has been recovering rapidly since the pre-market lows. Crypto was smashed on Sunday, and when Asian markets opened, they got smashed as well. Some of those markets, including Singapore, triggered circuit breakers, which means a temporary closing of the market. Now, pre-market trading in the US opened sharply lower, but has been trending up since, and as of now, the S&P 500 is actually up slightly compared to the close on Friday. Bitcoin is down slightly on the day and down 6% on the week to just about $78,000 at the time of recording. HBAR is actually up 4% on the day, but down 11% on the week to 14.8 cents. We broke well below the support we had seen for a long time at about 18 cents and saw a spike low to about 12.4 cents. 12 cents has always been a key area for HBAR, so it's not surprising if that now starts to act as an area of support. 18 cents would be our mark for potential resistance if we keep recovering from here. Now, I know this might sound crazy, but I'm not concerned about the HBAR or the crypto space more broadly at this point. Obviously, the drops in the market have not been isolated to crypto, and if we drop further, I think the Federal Reserve will step in by easing monetary policy. Could a deflationary environment overwhelm those liquidity injections? Sure. But in my opinion, the Fed would just continue to pull out larger and larger monetary printing bazookas until they stem the deflationary impulse. Inflation is bad, but in a debt-based monetary system, deflation is worse, and central banks around the world won't allow that to continue for long, as we saw in the financial crisis in 2008, the COVID crash a few years ago, and so many other examples. From what I can tell, crypto may have led the market down, but it also seems to be primed to be the first one to lead it out. Will that be from these levels or as a result of the Fed stepping in at lower levels? I don't know. If it is from here, my position is ready, and if it is from lower levels, I have some dry powder that I'm getting ready to deploy in the Hedera ecosystem. So obviously I'm wearing some new clothes. It is a new day. It's a new week. I had some things that I needed to change because there was some information in the original weekly update that wasn't quite ready to go out. So hopefully that will be ready to go out by the end of the week. We have some other good things that I'm going to have in the next weekly update. We have Origin that's going to be doing a quick introduction to what they're doing. I also have a team called Fraunhofer. They are doing clean energy on Hedera. Specifically, they're doing green hydrogen and how they can track that. I'm working on two things that are pretty big. As I mentioned before, I'm going to try to get RJ on from Zoop to give us the inside track on exactly what's happening with TikToc. I'm also going to get Rob back for a Shark Bites. We already have some good questions for that. And I also have finally made contact again with the Equity Lab team. We had some interesting news. There was actually a post on LinkedIn by what appears to be one of the managers at NVIDIA singing Hedera's praises. Now, I want to get some more information on that. Make sure it's real. Make sure it's a real person. If it is an NVIDIA VP, this is absolutely massive. That's all we have for this week. We'll see you in a few days.